Hey everyone, I wanted to make a quick demonstration for you guys to show the scalable patterns part of Lab 5. I didn't get a chance to go over this in lab on Friday, so I just wanted to make a quick video for you guys and explain a potential implementation. So the idea of the program is to write a program that prints a scalable pattern. In this instance, we're going to be using letters. So you choose a letter and you input the size that you want the letter to be, and then it's going to print out the letter in this fashion. So here you can see a Q of size 15, 23. You could also do R, Z, and you could do any letter that you choose, but the logic of which the printing works is going to be slightly different for each one. So in my implementation, I'm going to be using the letter O, as I believe it is relatively simple to show you guys how this O gets printed. And let's get started. So if I wanted to use command line arguments like this here uses, I would do something like this: int size equals integer dot parse int args of 0. When you're using command line arguments, it stores the strings that come after the file name as strings, and if you want to store them in something like a variable size, which is an integer, you need to use the integer class, use integer dot parse int, which will cast that string to an integer. However, for me, I'm using my PC, and I don't really code a lot on my PC. It's mostly just my laptop. I'm just going to set size to 4 because it doesn't like when I use the Java C command and command line arguments and such. So for me, I'm just going to use size 4, but since the idea is scalable letters, you want this to print a letter of any size that you choose. So when you submit your assignment, please have this either be user input with a scanner or something like command line arguments. So let's talk about how we want to print this. The general idea is that we want to use a nested for loop, so 2 for loops, and print out a grid. So let's start with how we do that. Let's do for int x equals 0, x is less than size, and increment x by 1. And then do the same thing, but call this y. And if I had a print statement here, and inside I'm just printing something like a 00, that's what I'm going to be choosing for my O here. And then after this for loop closes, I do a print line here with nothing in it. So merely once this for loop ends, it's just going to skip a line here. And I'll run this and show what it looks like for you guys. And it's just a grid of size 4 by 4, but each print uses a 00. So that's why it looks a little bit bigger than 4 characters by 4 characters. So now that we have our grid here, we want to use some conditionals to decide whether or not we're printing in certain spaces. So for instance, with this O, we're not going to be printing in the corners. We're not going to be printing on a lot of like these inside characters. And we need to decide for each XY coordinate that we get, are we printing here or not? So to do that, I'm going to create another method. But first I'll start with inside the double for loop. I'm going to say if should draw, which is what I'm going to call our method, and we have to say XY size. If that returns true, meaning we should draw here, let's do a print statement, and we'll print the 00. And then else, meaning we should not draw here. Oh my, what is happening? We should not draw here. Something like this, just a double space. So now we should implement the should draw method. So let's go down here. This is going to be a static method which returns a type Boolean, and it's called should draw. It passes your int x, int y, and the size that you chose. And we'll go over the logic of whether or not we're printing in certain spaces. So I'm going to start off just by writing out some things, and then I'll show you, or I'll explain to you what exactly I just did. Okay. So for this, it is saying if your x coordinate is 0, and your y is greater than 0 and less than the size that you chose, you are returning true. In my should draw method, I'm essentially just going to have a couple of these if statements, and if the conditional inside these if statements is true, then I'm returning true, and for anything else, I'm returning false. So in this sense, I am choosing when to print, and then anything else is just going to be false. Don't print. What this does is, if my x-coordinate is 0, so I'm on this top line here, and my y-coordinate is greater than 0, and my y-coordinate is less than the size, I'm returning true, meaning I should print there. So let's do another one. Let's say, excuse me, it is not this top line. That was a mistake on my part. So if my x is 0, that does not mean this top line here. That means this vertical line on the left here. So if the vertical left, if this vertical line here, that means your x is 0, and then if y is greater than 0 and y is less than the size of the canvas, it is going to be these characters here, if you can see my cursor. For the next one, I'm going to do if x is the size minus 1. And then I will do and same thing, y is greater than 0 and y is less than size minus 1. And I will return true. I don't know why I said int there, whoops. Okay. So the first if statement did these 4 characters here on the bottom. The second if statement is going to do these 4 characters here. And now we need to just do, I guess this O right here is a better demonstration. So I just printed out these 4. And now I want to print out these top and bottom as well. The top is going to be if your y is 0. And x is greater than 0, and x is less than your size minus 1. So I think that is going to print the top line, and then let's print the bottom line now. If y equals the size minus 1, x is greater than 0, and x is less than size minus 1. This is going to print the bottom line here. Let's return true. And then just a quick recap. So each one of these if statements decides where you are printing, given the x, y, and the size that you chose. So if your x is 0, that means that you are on the left side of the column. You're 0 distance in on the left side. So the first one does these 4 middle characters, or the first 2 does these 4 middle characters. The third one does this top line here, and the fourth one does this bottom line here. And then if you are not these specific spots, then you are just returning false, which will then print the double space here. So if I run this, you'll see if I have a size 4, it is going to print what I'd hope would print. The principles that I am talking about, using the should draw method and having different logic here, apply to all different types of letters that you want to choose to use. What's going to change, however, is how many conditionals that you have, what the inside of each one of these conditionals are, and yeah, so that's going to be different for every letter that you choose. But I wanted to choose an O, just something simple to show you guys what that would look like. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.